Today's topic is gut health, and we are so blessed and lucky to have Carrie Procinsky with us today. She is one of the oncology nutritionists from Remission Nutrition, and as always, I say it every single time, and I mean it sincerely, we are so lucky and blessed to have their team be in direct support of our team. So Carrie's going to take us through, and she's got a really cool story to share with us along the way. So welcome, Carrie.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me, you guys. All right, so let's talk about the gut health on the cancer journey. So this is a photo of my family. We actually live in Houston, Texas, and we are visiting Jen, my boss, out in James Ranch, Colorado. Probably one of my most favorite magical places ever. That's my 14-year-old daughter, my 11-year-old son with his crazy hockey hair, and my husband, KP. We actually moved to Houston from Canada, Alberta, about 8 years ago. And I just recently uprooted my family to full share. And I'm going to give you more information on why I did that and everything tied all together at the end of this presentation. So I started my own gut health journey when I was 19 years old. I had a doctor who told me I had Crohn's disease, and my mom was not having any of that. And so she found me a naturopathic doctor, and I have been on this lifelong journey now of gut health. And each year, each month, each day, it keeps getting better and better. It's so exciting what we're learning about the gut. I really furthered my knowledge with all of this when my daughter was born, obviously, and then my son. My daughter has sensitivities to food, and my son is celiac. So that just really helped to spur all of my nutrition knowledge even further. Finished my diploma, Canadian School of Natural Nutrition, went on to take my master's at Saybrook University in Integrative and Functional Nutrition. I did the coaching program with FMCA, and I did the ONI program with Jess Kelly, and also did the TAP program with Dr. Winters. So this is like a passion of mine. I just keep going. And currently I'm taking my master's in herbalism because I really want to see how we can pull herbs in with all of this as well. So full disclaimer, nutrition therapy is not intended as a diagnosis, treatment, or cure, prescription or cure for any disease, and is not intended as a substitute for regular medical care. This lesson is for educational purposes only. So this is incredibly overwhelming, and I'm doing this with a purpose. It's because I really want everyone to understand and just see how vast of an ecosystem this is in our gut. I'm at the tip of the iceberg. I'm probably even less at the tip of the iceberg of what we know with the gut microbiome. As of right now, they know there are trillions of bacteria, fungi, phages, and viruses. There's over 1,000 different species, and they encode for about 5 million genes. So this ecosystem is absolutely mind-blowing.
Before you keep going, when you say ecosystem, are we specifically saying its own little universe within our bodies? So what you're saying is this vast, separate, call it like a little universe inside of you running itself. And there are thousands of things that we are just starting to understand. Am I with you?
Absolutely. Yeah,
Perfect.
absolutely. And I'm going to get into it too, but this entire ecosystem that's going on in our system, I actually like to explain it to my kids, is that we have this exotic zoo in our gut. There are every single animal that you've ever seen in your life, some that you can only imagine, and they live in there, and you have to take care of them by the food we eat. Okay. And then what they produce and what they do is a reflection of our health. It's this whole incredible ecosystem, and I'll get into a little bit more about what it does exactly. It's pretty incredible. So this just shows that there's actually more, what they're finding, there are more bugs in our gut than there are stars in the sky. That's how diverse this system is. The microbiota consists mainly of bacteria, and the two predominant phyla are your Firmicutes and your Bacteroidetes, okay? So these are some really big words, but I just want you to understand that it's predominantly bacteria in there, and these are the two that we take a look at and we want to make sure are healthy. These are the ones that dominate the mouth, nose, throat, and colon. You don't need to remember these names, but it's just more so you just understand that these are the predominant ones that are there. And when we're in health, the microbiota, they actually live in harmony together, and they undergo different processes to create these beneficial things, that can be beneficial or harmful, metabolites they're called. And these metabolites are essential in the gut being able to talk with the rest of our body. So if these metabolites are not being produced by the beneficial guys, then that crosstalk is not able to happen. And this is where it actually will start to influence our behavior and brain function. So it'll either promote anxiety or calmness. It can promote depression or contentment. And they produce neurotransmitters as well, such as serotonin, which is a precursor for melatonin, which is really important for sleep. So the top metabolites that I would like to talk about are your short chain fatty acids, your tryptophan, and your bile acid metabolites. So those are just a glimpse of the predominant ones. But first, I want to discuss what these metabolites play a role in. So these beneficial bacteria eat these food, convert it into beneficial metabolites. And this plays a role in epigenetic and genetic expression, plays a role in immune health, plays a role in how we respond to internal and external stressors, plays a role in energy, plays a role in homeostasis, such as water balance, electrolyte balance, hormone balance, glucose balance, and it's even responsible for maintaining its own ecosystem. So the more that the beneficial bacteria are abundant in our system, the more that the ecosystem is in balance and has reached homeostasis. It's also responsible for protecting against pathogens and synthesizing folate and biotin, okay, and absorbing magnesium, calcium, and iron. So it has a pretty big job to do. A lot of researchers are saying that about 70 to 80% of our immune system comes from our gut health. And this is a reflection of why. Any questions so far?
What you're saying, the gut has, we'll call it good bacteria, and then it might have not so good bacteria. You're speaking directly to the role that the good bacteria has within our gut health.
Exactly.
So if I'm understanding you correctly, it's two things. Are we supportive of the good bacteria? And that needs to be in balance as it relates to the not so great bacteria.
Yeah, exactly. And I will tie this all together. So then that way we know exactly the good and what happens with the harmful guys, the naughty guys.
And are the good guys the ones that are called the metabolite? Is that what you're using that term for?
Yeah, so the predominant bacteria are the Bacteroidetes and the Firmicutes, and those guys produce the beneficial bacteria.
Got it.
And so as we move through and talk about the harmful naughty guys, that's where it's pathogenic bacteria that kick in, such as H. pylori. So now I want to talk about the metabolites that are produced by those two bacteria, the Bacteroidetes and the Firmicutes. And so the first metabolites, we're going to eat some food, and the bacteria, the beneficial bacteria, are going to convert it into something beneficial to us. And so one of the things that are produced is short-chain fatty acids. And this is created from the fermentation of dietary fiber in the cecum and the colon by several different species of gut bacteria. And this is where our soluble and insoluble fiber are incredibly important. Soluble fiber is a fiber that dissolves in water and forms a gel-like substance in the intestines. These foods include hazelnuts, sunflower seeds, flax seeds, Brussels sprouts, broccoli, turnips, and so on. Insoluble fiber is when it does not dissolve in water or the gastrointestinal fluids and remains unchanged for the most part. It adds bulk to our stools and helps food pass through the entire system, and it helps prevent constipation. So these are your berries, your spinach, radishes, coconut, apples with the skin on, avocado, and so on and so forth. A big thing that I hope that everyone takes from all this is what you'll start to see is the diversity and how important diversity is with all of this. The short chain fatty acids play a significant role in immune homeostasis. They regulate inflammation, so they'll help bring inflammation down by keeping this inflammatory macrophage in check. They help, just remember, they just help with inflammation, and they help with the internal nervous system as well. Butyrate is actually a favorite one of mine that I wanted to mention. What happens is that from these foods, the gut microbiome will break down the short chain fatty acids. And there's a specific bacteria called Roseburia that will actually have to convert the food one step further into butyrates. Butyrate is really important for the gut lining, okay, and helping to build up the strength of it. It helps to lower inflammation, and it also helps to keep the tight junctions nice and strong. Our only food source of butyrate is grass-fed butter and ghee. Even when I don't have my clients on dairy, if they can tolerate it, I will still have them eat grass-fed butter and ghee. Then that way it can help to restore the gut lining.
Those are the only two, Carrie, is grass-fed. So for those of us who are on the journey and trying to add or subtract things that are supportive to our health, is that across the board that grass-fed butter and ghee will support healing in the gut?
Yeah, what we look at is a couple different things. We want to make sure that you can tolerate it first. And then the second thing I want to take a look at is your insulin growth factor 1. If that number is elevated, then we do not want to use any of the grass-fed butter and ghee as well, and keep it out for probably about 2 months until we can run another test. What that is, insulin growth factor is a hormone that's produced from the mama cows or sheep or goats, and it gets transferred into the milk. And then we consume it too, in the grass-fed ghee and all that, all the dairy. So we consume that. So if our IGF-1 is elevated, we do want to stay off all dairy. Here's some other honorable mentions of some other great short chain fatty acid producing foods. These foods are incredibly important for gut health. Even tea, doing different teas like ginger tea, marshmallow tea, licorice tea is really beneficial, peppermint, anything like that, really great for the gut microbiome. When you choose your teas, though, always make sure you're getting it from a high quality company like Mountain Rose Herbs. Always stay away from non-organic teas. They actually use hazmat outfits when they harvest the tea and coffee. You want to be really careful with that. Now we're going to talk about tryptophan. And yes, tryptophan from amino acids, which is abundant in turkey, red meat, eggs, nuts, and seeds. And so tryptophan, this amino acid, gets converted into metabolites by the gut microbiome, and it has significant anti-inflammatory activity. This is an all dependent. So yes, we do support pasture-raised, grass-fed, grass-finished meats, but there are some dependent things when, we have to pull the red meat out. It's very much it depends on the scenario with that person. But again, I just want you to see that the diversity, our bodies are looking for this diversity. Bile acids. So the gut microbiome also transforms 5% of the bile acids produced in the liver that have made their way to the colon. The gut microbiome turn these bile acids into secondary bile acids, which significantly impact receptors such as vitamin D. That's part of the vitamin D absorption, promote homeostasis, and help to keep inflammation and the naughty pathogens in check. Any changes to the composition or size of the bile acid pool caused by inflammatory foods, infection, intestinal disease, or gallbladder removal can trigger dysbiosis. So what is dysbiosis? As we learned, metabolites produced by the beneficial microbes can be protective. However, when the protective bacteria are not present or are drastically minimized, the more harmful ones can flourish. These harmful microbes produce metabolites as well, which are incredibly destructive to our health, and they promote an onset of disease, including cancer. This photo gives us a general overview of the connection between the gut microbiome and the liver and inflammation. This is known as the gut-liver axis. The liver is a critical organ that is constantly exposed to circulating nutrients or endotoxins produced by the gut. These endotoxins are highly pro-inflammatory, increase dysbiosis, decrease the permeability of the gut lining, known as leaky gut, and cause bacteria to relocate from one area to another. What alters the gut microbiome? Our standard American diet, poor quality fats, high consumption of poor quality protein, highly processed foods, refined grains, gluten, high salt concentration, which is not the proper salt concentration, high fructose corn syrup, unfiltered water, what they're spraying in our air as well. That's always a big problem. Chemicals in our system, chronic stress, alcohol, and even a sedentary lifestyle. There's definitely a lot of factors that will impact the gut microbiome. And believe it or not, even dehydration will impact the gut microbiome. These are some conditions that gut dysbiosis can contribute to, and they're finding more and more of how the gut is related to all of these conditions. Even so much so to where like teenage kids, when they go have acne and stuff, how that is all now being related to the gut microbiome and what kids are eating at that age. This is where, if you want to do some more digging, I would highly recommend looking into the GI map. Okay, anybody would benefit from this test just to know what's going on with their gut. To be honest with you, I have my kids who are 11 and 14 do the test every year, just because of like they go to school and they sneak food. We're in contact with different parasites. We travel. You know, I had H. pylori, which is a pretty nasty bug that you can pick up from contaminated food that can lead to stomach cancer if it's not in check, right? Our water, anything like that, we can pick up these things. So it's always really good just to see what is going on with the gut. Dr. Anisha always says, don't guess, assess. This is one of the things. If you want to know what's going on, just check. And this GI map with Genova Diagnostics is one of the best tests that are out there. I would add on the zonulin test. The zonulin test is an indicator of leaky gut and gut permeability. So it's an enzyme that gets released by the body when we're under chronic inflammation. This test, it checks for a variety of microbes of DNA using an advanced technology, detecting bacterial imbalances, microbes contributing to illness, and other indicators of digestion, absorption, inflammation, and immune function. It looks for quite a few different things. And this would apply, like I said, to everybody. Anyone that has like a chronic skin condition, like eczema or anything like that, I would check to see what's going on with their gut. Anyone that has seasonal allergies, I would check to see what's going on with their gut. It can be as simple as that, and then all the way through.
Can anybody order that test, or do you have to go through your doctor?
So you do need to go through a doctor or a physician that will order it for you. We can order it as well at Remission Nutrition, and we've also taken training to go through the test with you as well. There's a couple different options. We order it through Rupa, and I think you can even meet with one of their physicians.
Got it. So separate than, say, a Viome or another, this is more specifically targeting just the gut health. Do I have that correct?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Just the gut health is looking for inflammation. It's looking for like how things are being digested, how you're absorbing. So it breaks down all like a lot of the bacteria that I was mentioning, and it really goes, it checks to see what's going on with them. So this test is by far, I would say, the best one that is available to us. All right, so now let's go into from a nutrition perspective. So this is where we look at the 5R protocol, which consists of remove, replace, reinoculate, repair, and rebalance. So first we start off by removing some inflammatory foods and other things. So gluten is a really inflammatory food, so we even want to be very careful with cross-contamination. This food has been so modified over the last 50 plus years that our bodies do not have the digestive enzymes to break this food down. And it will actually go in and destroy those tight junctions that are responsible for allowing nutrients in and out. Dairy in some cases is also removed because it can be incredibly inflammatory to people. It does have a protein in there as well that if the system is under a lot of inflammation, it may recognize or misrecognize it, I guess, gluten as the protein. And again, that's where we'll also look at the IGF-1. Legumes and grains are also on this list because they are incredibly inflammatory because of how they are grown in North America. They are typically grown in monocrop situations, and the soil is incredibly devoid of nutrition. And they also sequester, they pull up heavy metals and insecticides and pesticides from outlying farms. Regardless of being organic, they're very heavy in these toxins. Food sensitivities is something that we also want to remove. That's something that we can just do like with an elimination diet, or if you know you have some food sensitivities, keeping them out, or there's also tests that you can do for that as well. But I think the elimination diet is the best one that's out there. Xenoestrogens, which are endocrine disruptors that are in plastics, getting all of your food out of plastic and into glass, drinking from a glass water bottle or stainless steel, and then also taking a look at what you're using for products around the house, shampoos, conditioners, things like that. Those all can really impact your health as well.
What would you say for somebody who's trying to improve gut health would be the top 3 micro changes that you could make that might move the needle a little bit? I always worry when we do the food for thought webinars, when we say just this is the cause of it, and or this is where it's coming from, and this is what we need to get rid of. And at the end of the day, the information becomes so overwhelming that we end up getting paralyzed in the details. Yeah. So if in this big category, would you say that there would be 3 items that our listeners could take action on that would improve gut permeability, gut health in general for all of us, not necessarily those of us who have identified a gut health issue?
What I actually always like to ask at the end of my sessions with clients, with new clients, is what are your takeaways? And then we go with that.
Yes.
And I still always highly encourage gluten. If you were to remove one food, that would be it. Hydration is always a big one. But then I want to know what your takeaways are, because if we go with what, you resonated with, those are always going to be the most successful.
Agreed. I also feel like this was my year of removing as much plastic, because it just seems like it's like a big topic, and trying to add to the to-do list that doesn't completely derail my day, but slowly getting rid of the Tupperware containers and replacing them with mason jars. And to your point, finding a way to have a better filtered water source, that seems doable. The remove gluten, I wish everybody was on camera to see their faces, because like I said, I like to go the route that is the least painful, the least amount of work, because it's just human nature. Give me one more. Give me one more if gluten's not an option right now for folks.
Hydration would be a big one. Okay, most of us are so severely dehydrated. That would be a big thing.
Sure.
This is where, like, what we start to replace with. So maybe this is where people start, is finding, a local farmer in the area, a local grower in the area, going to farmers markets and just getting the most nutrient dense food as possible. Maybe that's the start. And we just start there. And the more whole foods that we can start to bring in, the more the other stuff starts to shift out.
Love it.
So again, and I have a couple slides just to reinforce this too, but again, like what we saw with the short chain fatty acids, those all eat beneficial, like those all eat whole foods. There was no mention of hamburgers or pizza or anything in there, right? This is where we want to feed the beneficial guys. So always choosing like local, if you can go to the farmers markets, talk to them, find some local pasture, grass-fed, finished, pasture-raised, all of that, wild-caught fish, and eat with the seasons. As we're moving into summer, food is incredibly abundant. See what you can find and bring that home. All right. So I also want to mention too that chewing our food mindfully is also very important. Taking 3 deep breaths before we start to eat our food. We have such a tendency to inhale our food, and that really does impact the gut microbiome too. Take 3 deep breaths, chewing our food mindfully. And then there's also some really great ways to help support the digestion in the stomach, and you can use apple cider vinegar for that. I love to add it in salad dressings, but you can also just put like a tablespoon of it in some water before you eat, and that will help support digestion. Bringing in foods, bitter foods like dandelion and radicchio. I know they're really bitter, and some people are probably like, ew, but if you cut them up really small and you add them to some eggs or into a salad, they're actually quite great. Avocado, ginger, lemons, and again, hydration plays a key role in microbiome health. When you are drinking, when you're eating, try to drink minimal amounts, because drinking while eating will actually dilute the digestive enzymes in the mouth, which are responsible for starch breakdown.
I did not know that one. Did you all hear that? She's recommending don't drink while you're eating. That's something we could do. I don't feel like that would be too big of a hardship, right? There was a little gold nugget there, Carrie, so I think we can do that one.
Awesome. That's great. This is all it's about, is what do you take away from all this? All right. So re-inoculate. We want to get the good guys back in. So how do we do that? We could do probiotics. I personally love to look at fermented foods first. The study actually came out in 2019 stating that fermented foods may be more beneficial than fiber. Kimchi contains billions of probiotic species and approximately 500 different species of microbes, far surpassing any supplement on the market. It is low in calories and it is abundant in vitamin A, C, B vitamins, phytochemicals, minerals, and dietary fiber. If you can't tolerate kimchi, sauerkraut is another great fermented food, with some predicting the beneficial bacteria somewhere near the trillions. You cannot get this in a supplement. These foods are incredible. And they have anti-inflammatory, anti-diabetic, anti-obesity, anti-cancer, and anti-hyperlipidemic properties. So I love to add my sauerkraut or kimchi to my eggs. I'll make a big egg omelet in the morning and I'll top it with the kimchi or sauerkraut. When you are looking for sauerkraut and kimchi, make sure that you find it in a glass container and it's kept in the fridge. Or better, if you feel like you want to make your own, that's always great too. And then this is just an easy at-home fermented ginger.
Homemade fermented ginger. So where would you use this?
I top it on my food. If we're like doing steak, I love it with my steak dinner. I'll have it just before I eat. If I'm like walking around the house, I'll just grab it and have a little bit too. Next is the repair of our gut lining. This slide and the next slide are also overwhelming, but these are all of the nutrients that our gut needs to heal and needs to help feed the gut microbiome. What I hope you all take from this is just the vast variety of food that we need to get in. So many of us are stuck on eating the same 4 to 5 different vegetables. And so we really need to push ourselves outside of that and try for a little more. I actually have a challenge with my clients. I try to get them to aim for 4 to 5 different vegetables and herbs per meal. It's a bit of a game. We can make salad dressings with fresh herbs, so that counts. We can do some eggs with 4 to 5 different vegetables and herbs. Soups, 4 to 5 different vegetables, right? And tons of herbs. Herbs are so great. They're really low carb and they're so nutrient dense. Gut microbiome absolutely loves them. And I also encourage my clients when they go to the grocery store, aim for 8 to 10 different vegetables and herbs and grab at least 2 different ones you've never had before. So just make a little game of it. Every time we go to the grocery store, it's so easy to grab the same stuff, carrots, celery, the same usual. But go outside of it and be like, you know what, there's some radicchio. What is that? It looks like green cauliflower. That's so weird. I'm going to try it. It's actually delicious. It's probably one of our favorite vegetables. Just have a little game with it and you'll find that you'll be able to increase more and more. And then the really cool thing about all of this is that as the beneficial bacteria start to build up, they're going to start to talk to you and tell you that they want more of this food. Like I mentioned before, there's that crosstalk. You're going to find as you start to bring these foods in, you're going to start craving them more, which is pretty cool. And then finally, this brings us to rebalance. This isn't just about nutrition. It's about the water we drink and how much of it. It's about the air we breathe in and outside of our houses. And I know we cannot control what's going on in the outside, but we can control what's going on in the inside. We can look at air filters. We can look at eliminating toxic cleaners, laundry detergents, personal hygiene products. And then we can also look at stress mitigation, such as deep breathing, meditation, prayer, or listening to classical music or binaural beats. Practicing healthy sleep, hygiene by turning cell phones off at night, shutting all screens down 90 minutes before bed, reading, journaling, restorative yoga, warm baths with Epsom salt. All of these count to help support the gut microbiome. Exercise is also incredibly beneficial, even if it's just walking. It's so important. It helps to alleviate stress. It helps to build muscle and it helps to balance blood sugar. And last but not least, get into nature as often as you can. This has led me to my next big journey. 3 weeks ago, I moved my family from Houston, inner city, to 4 acres out in Fulshire. And we are putting in a half-acre food forest. And we just got our first ever chickens. Because I truly believe, as I'm learning about the soil and about the food that we're growing, I really believe that this is the missing piece for all of us. It's a way to reconnect with nature and the soil. Our new adventure has taken me down a path of learning just how incredible our soil and its integral role in our health. I believe it holds the key to our well-being. we're beginning to understand that regenerated soil contains a diverse array of microbes, often even more diverse than our own microbiome. Beneath our feet lies an ecosystem that communicates, produces nutrients, and fosters biodiversity. It's an ecosystem more abundant than our oceans, some researchers say. But unfortunately, practices like monocropping, tilling, and the use of insecticides and pesticides have stripped the soil of this diversity, leaving it lifeless. My realization is that we are a reflection of what has happened below us. So please turn back to nature, walk in the forest, grow some vegetables in nutrient-rich soil, whether inside or outside your home, transform your front yard into an edible landscape, and engage with local regenerative farmers and growers. If you feel called to consider moving to a piece of land to start your own food forest. It is stressful, but it's so worth it. Your microbiome and ultimately your health will thank you.
There's so much here, Carrie. Are these actual pictures of the new property?
This is the
All
start
right.
of the forest.
Listen, you all. She low-lighted something ginormous. She moved her family to a piece of property where she is creating a food forest. So for listeners who don't know what that is, what you're saying is the regenerative piece of the land serves itself. Everything on the land has a job to do. And maybe since you did this and I haven't, although you are goals for me, maybe dive a little deeper into what exactly does that mean? And I'm trying to think, perhaps maybe you know the exact name, Carrie, but there is a lovely documentary. I think it's called Big Little Farm or Little Farm.
Yeah, there's that one, and there's Farmer's Footprint as well.
We will put these in the show notes. And again, I'm not trying to be selfish, but I am so interested in what you've done and have so much respect for the ability to shift. And might I add, cheeky, that you convinced your husband that this was a good idea, because it was not easy. But you've been there 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And I just would like people to know the question, is this the actual property and this is where you've started?
This is the actual property. So it was really stressful, but I know I had to do this for my kids' health and for my health and my husband's health. Like just living in a city, I kept doing our stool samples and everything just kept coming back, not where I thought it should be. My lab markers kept coming back the way they shouldn't be. So this is where I started to do a lot of research on what is missing. And I truly believe that this is what is missing. We found 45 minutes outside of Houston, we found this little area called Fulshire. And you can actually see my neighbor's house across the road. She's the one who sold us this property, and we decided to tear down the house, and we built with clean principles as well. We found a builder that would work with us. I went off the book prescriptions for a healthy home, and that way we could build a cleaner home as well. And then my husband's known that I've wanted to do a full food forest for years and years. So I actually found a guy here in Houston, and he is helping me install this just to help avoid like 5 years of air. And so what we did is the soil was incredibly devoid of life. It was all just clay. It had nothing. So what we did is in this half acre, we did 12 inches of manure, horse manure from a neighbor, and then 12 inches of mulch. And we let it sit for 4 months, and it created this incredibly diverse ecosystem. My landscaper, food forest landscaper, he sent it off for soil testing, and they were completely blown away by how the microbes in here were so healthy. We are also doing electroculture. It's when you put pegs in with the food and you wrap copper around it. It pulls the energy from the earth into everything that you're growing. It's an incredibly old practice that is now starting to see that it's coming back to life.
Carrie, when you get all the way through this, you're going to write a book for us?
I've been told that I should do a documentary. My goal, honestly, my goal at the end of all of this is to have people come for dinners, that I harvest food from this food forest and people can sit and learn and have dinners and be a part of this.
Road trip for all of us.
Road trip, absolutely. What we started with was all of the fruit trees. We started with 27 fruit trees. We have an apple, pear, couple different citrus, lemon, lime, guava, 2 guavas, jackfruit. It's the first jackfruit that's ever been planted in Houston, and a couple other mulberry and a couple figs and a few others. And then what is happening next is about 40 to 50 different bushes. It would be like hibiscus and things like that all get planted around the spiral shaped food forest that I've created. And then along that will be a wildflower path and then edibles that will just grow everywhere. You start off with your top food and it goes all the way down to edibles on the ground.
Incredible.
You literally get lost in there.
Unbelievable. We have a comment from one of our listeners, April. She said, Alan Savory, holistic management for farming. She went to Africa and trained under him. Are you familiar with that?
No.
Fabulous. Again, please, listeners, if you have any questions for Carrie, I am just literally in awe. How long from the time of design till, I'm not asking whether or not when it will start bearing fruit, but when you finally get your food forest completely planted from beginning to end, what does that look like? Is it years? How does it, if somebody wanted to do something like that, of course, we'd pass them to you and have you take care of it. But I'm curious from a personal, like, what is somebody looking at in terms of a time commitment where we could say it's a functioning food forest?
Yeah, Jonathan, with my food forest landscaper said it'll probably be about 2 to 3 years to really reap the benefits. But with that being said, we've already had mulberries that the kids have been eating constantly. We already have a ton of apples growing. We already have pears growing. So we're going to be getting stuff for sure. In the front end, when she can't see yet, we'll probably get it going up probably around June or July, is we got a bunch of Vigo raised garden beds. They're made out of metal that are non-toxic, and they have a 20-year lifespan. We're going to be planting a bunch of vegetables in there, more the annual stuff. And then underneath will be like all of the perennials that can keep reseeding. In the bottom left corner here, there's like this picture. It looks like grass with like little white flowers. That's actually wild garlic. We have it growing naturally in our food forest. We are able to reseed it from another part of the pasture in there. So that's what we're doing. And then they'll start to reseed and it'll just keep growing and producing.
Talk about gut health, like right there in your front yard, like you're just putting it all there and to enjoy for every meal. That's beautiful. Really lovely. Will you have more animals besides the chickens?
We're sticking to the chickens for right now. I'll probably get some little goats at some point just to help keep everything regenerating and stuff like that. But for right now, I'm very happy with my chickens. So
that's great.
And a big point too is that I've never done anything like this. People can do this. It was pretty scary. It was up until the day before moving that I was like, what am I doing? And I have never seen my kids and my husband so happy.
That's lovely.
So
it's really lovely.
Worth it for sure.
All right, friends. Do you have any questions for Carrie? I'm assuming we're going to move on you have some comments about, did you want to talk about the bad gut bacteria at all, or we're just going to stay on the healthy gut bacteria for the recipes?
Yeah, so I really like for a big thing with all of this is I really do to focus on the positives.
Good.
Instead of focusing on like the negatives. I think if you really want to know what is going on with your gut, consider doing a test.
Yeah.
And then that way you know what is going on. We could talk about all of the naughty guys that are having a heyday, but until we know what's really happening, I think it's just best just to focus on the beneficial.
Agreed.
The beneficial guys, let's do that. Let's get some really great diverse foods in. Let's find farmers, growers in your area if possible. And focus on that. Focus on the positives.
And some really rockin' recipes, it looks like.
This is an absolute favorite of ours. I make it probably once a week, to be honest with you. My kids love it. And we use sacha inchi flour, which most people have not heard of.
I have not.
It's a flour from a tuber. It's really high protein, which is great. Some of us have a tough time getting in good quality protein. And so I just use that for my chicken fingers and it's delicious.
Love that. Love that.
And I'm happy to share this, Stacy, like I can send this all to you if you want to share it with everyone.
That would be great. But Carrie, they're going to get the replay. So I have a couple questions that I wrote down. If somebody wanted to start really addressing some gut-friendly recipes like you just provided us, do you have a recipe book that specifically hones in on gut health that you would recommend to us?
Yeah, there's a website called Paleo Running Mama.
What was the middle? What was
Running? Paleo Running Mama.
Got it.
And I love her recipes. Sometimes they need some modification, but they are really great. It's a great start. The New Mediterranean Keto Cookbook is a fantastic cookbook.
I don't know which I'm more excited about. I want to go study regenerative farms and forest bathing or do some good cooking.
I
This is
know.
awesome. I'm so in awe. We are so happy for you, Carrie. It takes a bold woman to do what you did. That's a mama who's invested for sure. Look at this one, ranch dressing with raw vegetables.
This is another favorite of ours as well. Another really great cookbook is called Anti-Anxiety Cookbook with Allie Miller. That one is a really good one as well.
That's beautiful. Really great. All right, my friends. I think that, first of all, let's say a huge thank you to Carrie. So thank you, and thank you for your knowledge, and thank you for your bold move there. All of us who are trying to do things a little differently can learn something from someone like you. I want to close this out with in gratitude for your attendance and Carrie's attendance and the staff at Believe Big that make all of these webinars so easy to run. What was the name of the Mediterranean cookbook, please?
It's called the New Mediterranean Keto Cookbook, but just reflect on your top 3 takeaways from all of this.
That's what I was going to say too. We're not a culture that's lacking in content and information. And when we are already feeling a heavy burden on our shoulders with something like a diagnosis, I worry that it gets to be overwhelming. And I love your suggestion of what is your specific takeaway for your specific scenario. What are the things that are non-negotiable and or things that might be easier to implement? And only you all know that. They may be different for each of us, but if we can remind ourselves that nobody on here is ever going to tell you that you need to overhaul it all, because what we don't want to have happen is the information contribute to an already stressful situation. The calmer that you can be and the more that you can bring behavior like good breathing, like good hygiene in terms of hydration and whatnot, those kinds of things go miles. Some of these minutia details of the what that we're going to eat, they get caught up and we end up perseverating on something that causes more stress than it needs to. So if nothing else, listen back to the replay, find 3 things that might work for you today. And once you conquer those, then you're going to create a list of another 3. And if that is still too much for you, Carrie is available, and I will always, my email address is stacy@believebig.org. You can get in contact with us, any of us at Believe Big. And Carrie, would you mind sharing your contact information? If you are somebody who is interested and would like a little more hand-holding, a little more customization as it relates to you, that's what Carrie does. An oncology nutritionist will hold your hand and guide you through these steps that will possibly make it a little easier on you. It's not that you can't do some of these on your own, but I want you to know that you have access to the resources whenever you need them. That's what we're here for. I want to say thank you. We know who's in charge here, and God bringing us together in such a beautiful hour. I just want to say thank you again. Thank you, Carrie, and thank you to all of you. Let us know how we can support you. Carrie, please give your contact information before we head out.
It is Carrie, Carrie, at remissionnutrition.com.
Love you guys, and we'll see you next month. Thank you again, Carrie.
Thank you.
All right, take care.
Bye.
Bye.